Very good morning to you all. A very good morning to you all. Do you hear the difference? A very good morning to you all. It's subtle, ne? But today I'm going to say a very good morning to you all. Good morning. You've had coffee. You've had coffee. You've had coffee already. I made sure you have coffee. So at least a little bit of enthusiasm. A very good morning to you all. Thank you very much. Are you excited to be here? Yes. It is an exciting time, but at the same time, it's a bit of a challenging time. My name is Bongiwe Zwane. A very good morning to you all. I'm a broadcaster by profession, so do not mind me. When you see me do broadcast things, don't be surprised. This is my daily life, so forgive me. I might just be at work. And it's really an honor to be back for the second installment of this conversation. But before we even get into the purpose of why we're here today, just a few ground rules. Cell phones, please, on silent. Even please, when you are watching us online, my plea to you is, please do yourself a favor, invest in yourself, and stay on this event, and please do not be distracted. Put your phone on silent, they'll be fine. They will be okay. I promise you they'll be fine. I promise you nothing is going to crumble. I promise you nothing is going to fall apart. For now, invest in self. I would really like for everybody to take away from this conversation that we'll have today, everything that you can take away from so that you are able to better cope where you are. And it's not only, I see this gentlemen who are joining us. Thank you. Thank you. Because at times we have these conversations by ourselves and we go back to your company and you don't know how to deal with us and you perceive us to be problematic. You perceive us to be all kinds of things. It's because you're not in the room with us. So you are the privileged who are going to get an insight into our minds. So thank you. Thank you for being our cheerleaders. Now, I'm going to open with words from Stats SA that were said this week. Please ponder on them. Please ponder on them. Because this is a theme that not only impacts me, it impacts you, it impacts our online community, it impacts everybody. It says, "Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo." You strike a woman, you strike a rock. This has become a powerful symbol of women's strength and resistance. During Women's Month, we celebrate the achievements of women in South Africa and the critical role they play in our society. Regrettably, women in South Africa continue to shoulder a disproportionate burden of unemployment, underemployment, and lower workforce participation compared to men. This is partly because women are more likely to take on household duties, child rearing, and responsibilities that limit their opportunities in the labor market. The trends in labor force participation and absorption rate for men and women from 2014 to 2024 indicates that fewer women have been participating in the labor market as compared to men. I'll stop there. What does that do to us mentally? What does that do to us when it comes to being better mothers, better spouses, better sisters, better employees, better anything, when we know that we still have this uphill battle? Not only that, we are dealing with things that our minds are telling us that we are not good enough. We have ambitions, but we find ourselves, those ambitions have to be scaled back because we've got responsibilities. Today, I want us to be as real gets, so that we understand when we walk out of here, we are better equipped to knowing how to take each day at a time. Against the statistics, we may feel that it's insurmountable, but guess what? We are women. We can do anything. We are women. We are women. We can bear kids. We can look after our spouses. We can be CEOs in the boardroom. We can call our best friends at lunchtime to check if they're okay. We can check in with our parents to see is everything going all right. We can go into that meeting and encourage another woman at the table who's feeling worthless. We are women. That's why multitasking is our thing, right? Sorry, guys. Sorry. I know that was the thing. So now that we've got that out of the way, today I'm sure you have a glimpse of what we are focusing on. We are looking at balancing corporate success and mental well-being. I'm sure a number of you, when you joined this particular company, you have a clear path of success and what it should look like. But how do you ensure that you get to the top healthy? Not only physically, but mentally as well. Because a healthy leader is a leader who can inspire. So we'll equip you today. We will give you all that you need. So please, do me the honors of speaking on hashtag Women in Conversation. Please, hashtag Women in Conversation. Let's have this conversation. And to our online community, you know there's this temptation that when you join an online discussion, you kind of concentrate, you kind of think, maybe I can log off, maybe. Today, if you do that, you may just miss out on a voucher. You may just miss out on some prizes. So if I were you, I would stay put until the very end. And not only for the prizes, but for the discussion as well. So without further ado, I will call Maureen Mtoninzi. And a lot of you know Maureen. Do you know Maureen? Yes. Do you know Maureen? Do you know Maureen? Do you know Maureen? Do you know Maureen? She is dynamic, ne? She is accomplished, ne? She's a business leader, ne? She's directing strategic and operational functions, right? At McDonald's business, ne? She's the chairperson of the chapter of South Africa of the Women Leadership Network. So because you know who Maureen is, I am expecting a resounding applause.
Abakhosikazi malibongwe. Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokotho, wathinta abafazi. Good morning, everyone. Greetings to everyone and greetings to our viewers online. We've also got our colleagues in our Middle East region that is taking part in this conversation. As you all know, Women's Leadership Network is a global network and a global platform. In South Africa, we understand the importance of our women inside of McDonald's and even outside of McDonald's. And so we have got this beautiful program called Women in Conversation. We do realize that women faces a lot of issues in their daily lives. And so every year we have got 2 Women in Conversations events. One is in March and one is in August. That is our South African for the whole country. The whole country is taking, having a Women's Day celebration, which was on the 9th. Some of us did a walk. We rained, and the rain actually poured on us, and that is why our voices have changed. But we do it for a good cause, and we understand the importance of being women of purpose and helping and supporting other women. So I just want to give applause to McDonald's South Africa for realizing the importance of women and having platforms like this. I'm excited. We are going to have an amazing conversation with our panelists, our very, very powerful panelists. I'm sure you're going to introduce them. Are you going to introduce them, Bongiwe?
Yes, I will.
And we are going to have great nuggets coming from them that's going to equip us so that we can deal with the subject of well-being. we can deal with the subject of, balancing our careers, and even a woman that's not in a career but at home, that's in a home executive, with the issues of mental health. It's very important so that we can thrive and become better people. Now, guys, I want to really use this honor, Bongiwe, to introduce a very important leader. Our CEO, Greg Solomon, is the sponsor of this Women in Conversation. In fact, the Women's Leadership Network. He is the sponsor of the Women's Leadership Network platform. And he has been so supportive. I know most of you, it is not the first time you've actually attending our Women in Conversation, and you understand that you'll never heard that he did not attend it or he was not part of it. And also, Greg always speak about women as leaders. He doesn't like to say women, he says they are leaders. But they understand that we're all equal and we need one another. So help me to welcome and to bring Greg to this podium to come and address us this morning. Welcome and thank you very much, Greg. We're looking forward to hear from you.
Thank you very much, Moz. And yes, indeed, I don't like to talk about women leaders. You are leaders. I'm very, very proud that this conversation has changed over the last 10 years. We were talking about women equality because we needed to empower. And now that conversation's changed now. It's not that women are 60% of McDonald's. We're 15,000 people. A shout out to all the thousands of McDonald's people and other people that are online today. And out of those 15,000, 9,000 are women. And it's not because we are doing anything crazy. It's because they're the best in their jobs. They're the best leaders. They've risen to the occasion. And all we had to do is just open the door and give them an opportunity to show their potential. We got a true world problem. We got a true South African problem. And we can't change the world.
Yeah.
And we can't change the country. But what we can do is we can change one restaurant at a time, one restaurant at a time. Because if we can focus on one restaurant in one community and one woman, then we can change many restaurants.
Yeah.
And many restaurants can change a town. And a town can change a province, and a province a country, and the country a world. So my message is we change this transformation and this in equal balance. We change it at one woman at a time, one restaurant at a time. Good morning, everybody. It's my great pleasure to not say a speech, but just welcome everybody to this biannual Women Convention or / webinar. I'm honored to be part of this dialogue, this ongoing dialogue of the women leaders in the business, just putting the mirror in front of us all the time and making sure that we're facing north and we're facing the correct direction. It plays a vital role in our culture. It plays a vital role in the talent of our female leaders. To Maureen, I thank you so much for your leadership. I thank you for your vision, and I thank you for your persistence in making sure that this is in the boardroom all the time. Today, we're focusing on a very crucial topic. We're focusing on this balance of business, job, and well-being. It's huge. It's huge in the world. It's huge in this country, and I'm very, very concerned about it. And so achieving success in our careers, and many businesswomen and business owners here today in businesses, and balancing that with our lifestyle and with our sanity is absolutely crucial. Our success will depend on the well-being of each and every one of you, all our listeners out there, all the McDonald's people in the restaurants, all the non-McDonald's people listening to us today. Our success is our well-being. And so I wait with huge anticipation to listen from our panel and hopefully try also digest on how we can unlock well-being. And it starts with leadership, because I don't think we have a leader problem in this world or this country. I think we have a leadership problem. And leadership needs to unlock well-being. And it starts with our leadership style, a style of diversity, a style of inclusion, a style of caring, a style of Ubuntu. And we can change the way we lead, we can change the way well-being of our people are. To our panel, I I thank you very much for your comments in advance, and not to single out, but I am going to single out two of my business partners that are on the panel tonight, Victoria and Zanele, two of our franchisees. I thank you for your partnership. I thank you for your inspiration, and I thank you for your contributions every single day. I look forward to the next 60 minutes odd of inspiration, and I look forward to these deep insights. Thank you very much. Enjoy it, everybody.
Wasn't that pressure? So we must make sure we rise to the occasion, ladies. I know we can. I'm going to ask us to do something very, very brief and quickly. On the count of 3, if you know that you are proud of yourself, please stand up. If you know you're on the count of 3, count of 3, count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Why am I not hearing you ululating or something so that you show you are proud of yourself? There we go. That's more like it. Before you sit, give yourself a pat on the shoulder, and then you may sit down. That is to say, well done. Well done to you. I don't care what goals you had and you still have not achieved, but well done. You've gotten this far. Now, one thing that I want you to look at this conversation as, you know, when you get to your safe space, your bestie's house, you take off your clothes, your shoes, right? And you sit on the couch and you start saying, I can't. This is it. Remember? Or when you're excited, you're like, hey, I've got news. And you sit down. So this is a safe space. Nobody is allowed to make you feel otherwise. Whatever you're going through, whatever you need advice with, whatever question you have, there's no question big, no question small. Ask it. Ask it. You know safe space? This is it. So you're at your bestie's house, drink in hand, and you're catching her up. And you're telling her, and you want to know how to deal. You want to know how to do this, right? You promise. You promise. Hashtag women in conversation. That's where we are. So, I have the honor. Have you ever met people who make you feel like, what did I do with my life? When you read their bios, you're like, Lord, what you are doing for other children. Can you please pour a little bit, 5% this side, ne? Victoria Moyo. Victoria. Victoria. I'm saying it 3 times so that you understand that she's a franchise owner operator at McDonald's. Since when? 2010. Yeah? She's grown a successful business. It serves millions of customers each year. In addition to running her business, she's contributing to the strategic direction and policy development at McDonald's as the brand, and she's the chairperson of the National Leadership Council for South Africa. I mean, really. I mean, she sits at important tables, ne? Now, Victoria not only does that, by the way, by day, she decided to add a book. And this book that she adds is Resilience Do-Over, How to Rediscover Yourself After a Hardship. Hey, hardships, ne? So she's going to tell us how she's doing. So, Victoria, I'm going to ask you to join me on stage. If you can take a seat. Another trailblazer, Zanele Mvelase, a McDonald's owner-operator, currently running 2 stores in the Northwest area and serves on the board of Ronald McDonald's House of Charities South Africa. She was previously an executive of the National Leadership Council for McDonald's owner-operators in South Africa. Now, do you understand who this woman is? Hey, please get a revelation. At the time of her departure in corporate, she was holding a position of group head of corporate affairs for a financial institution. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. You know, it doesn't. She loves children. She supports orphanages. How many hours in a day does she have? She's going to tell us. Zanel, please join us on stage. You must share how many hours you have in a day. And then we talk about mental health. And we need the people who can also arm us with information from different quarters. And Nombuyiselo Kahlanjangase is a founder and director of Sinoluvo Consulting and Liavusa Consulting. Now this woman, I'm summarizing, ne? Hey, ibayo yalo muntu. You say, Lord, I mean really. Early in her career, Nombuyiselo worked for the South African National Defence Force as a military social worker, where she also served in the United Nations peacekeeping mission in the DRC. As a chief social worker, she received an award for outstanding support and performance service from the UN. Bagwethu, honored by the UN, and she's right here in our midst. She has vast experience in employee assistance program, which is critical for our conversation today. So I call her again 3 times. Nombuyiselo. 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 Grace us. I will call you Mbuyi when we start talking. Don't worry. When we start our bestie conversation, I'll call you Mbuyi. Hi, ge Portia. Yazini ne. Ngicela ningitshele, how do we do this thing after we finish here? Because now I want a bio this big. Portia Swego is a seasoned professional with 21 years of work experience, of which 16, get this, 16, were in leadership roles within human resources management. Currently a human resources executive at United Pharmaceutical Distributors, responsible for supporting the business achieve its strategic and operational objectives through developing, driving, and implementing an effective people plan. She was a human resources and employee relations executive at Lanseria International Airport. So ungacabanga ukuthi when you were passing through Lanseria, ne? Njenje, she was right there. She has worked in various organizations in healthcare, banking, and hospitality. So Portia, I call you 3 times as well. Portia, please do join us. Now, with such a panel, one wonders if you don't feel like you're in the best company possible. If you do not feel like this is the best room to be in. And because you feel like this is the best room to be in, please partake in this conversation, because these are experts who lie awake at night thinking about you and I. They think about how to make our lives better. Because one thing I've gathered from their bios, they are very selfless leaders. So good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Do you feel the pressure already?
Yes.
Of course. It means I've done my job well.
Yes.
Now, I'd like us to start talking about this. I mean, we're talking about corporate success, we talk about mental well-being, and at times these two can be seen to be mutually exclusive by a lot of people, to say that chase the dream, forget about everything else. Mbuyi, I'm going to start with you. What keeps women awake at night in 2024?
Wow. A whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. Firstly, I want us to understand today and recognize that women are nurturers. And that comes with a whole lot of responsibilities. There's quite a number of things that keep us awake. I'll just count a few for the sake of time. First one is stress and anxiety, which is as a result of work and family responsibilities. Financial issues, they keep us awake at night, especially if you are a breadwinner at home. Because these days you find women who are breadwinners, even though there's a husband at home, maybe they might be earning more than a husband, or the husband is unemployed. So the financial pressure keeps us awake at night. Health issues. When I talk to health issues, those could be health issues with you as an individual, or you taking care of your parent, your child, your husband who is not well at home. That keeps us awake. We are also mothers. Sometimes we have to go back to work while we're still breastfeeding. We don't sleep at night because we must take care of the child. The following morning, you must be at work. And here I'm talking as a mother as well. I've experienced that where at some point in time I had to work the morning shift and the night shift and still go back home and breastfeed my child.
And still be a wife.
And still be a wife. So those things come with a whole lot of pressure. There's also mental issues that keep us awake. Women go through a lot of trauma at times. Not all of us, but some of us have gone through a lot of trauma. That post-traumatic stress disorder will then give you sleepless nights, and then you'll suffer from insomnia. Some of those could be sleep apnea, which is a health one, a physical one. We go through a lot of depression as well, an undiagnosed one. Because remember, there's still a stigma around the issues of mental health. Big stigma.
And I'm going to want us to unpack the stigma issue in greater detail. And at the same time, look at what you are talking about, the coping mechanisms, when you don't know what's wrong with you. And I'm going to come back to that. But Zanele, here you are starting a business, you're leaving the corporate world, and there's probably somebody who's saying to themselves right now, watching us, that, but Zanele has already made it. Zanele left as a group head. Zanele probably had so many contacts. Zanele maybe had an easier base to start the business from. So I'm here, I have a dream, and I feel like I'm such a junior employee, I don't even know if it's possible for me to climb the corporate ladder even, let alone get to that point.
Well, in fact, that's the reality. And I'm sure most of us sitting here as women have dreams.
Yeah.
Does not necessarily have to be in business, but whatever the dream is, we all have it. And I think for me, what got me to where I am is exactly that. I made a decision when I started my career. I learned what I wanted, and I noted it. So basically, I put a vision. Although over time, the vision will change based on the space where I was at that point in time. Now, for me, the most important thing, what has gotten me here, is putting that vision in place, which has actually guided me even through the most difficult of times, because there were so many times, particularly as you were building a career in corporate, where you just thought, I can't do this. And I'm sure you will also have an appreciation that there are not a lot of women who are in senior positions in organization. I think McDonald's is an exception, because as you heard the CEO earlier, we've got more women in the organization than we do men. But particularly in the financial services space, it's a man's world. Yeah. So you are there. You've never been on this position before. Your mother has never been. So you really don't have a reference point. So what kept me going was the vision that I had for myself, because every time I thought of giving up, and every time I thought it was safer to play small, I'll go back to that vision, and remind myself what I wanted. And I think for me, we all have, I don't know what to call it, but my true north is prayer. So everything that I've ever done, that I've ever wanted to do, starts on the knees. So whatever it is that works for anyone, you just have to have something that anchors you to move forward.
And Victoria, I want to tell you on that. You are at the starting point, and the starting point for Zanele was prayer, and someone is saying, my starting point was a dream. And not only a dream to own a business, not only a dream maybe to do this, but maybe a dream, like Zanele says, to climb the corporate ladder and eventually get to a place where I say I'm successful. But the dream changed over time. I found myself not being able to go to school because the cost of living is so high that I could not afford. I had to make a choice between supporting family and actually paying tuition. I had to make a choice between buying that car that can get me to meetings faster and catching a taxi daily. I had to make a decision again to be able to say, okay, park the dream for now because I don't know if it'll ever be achievable. So what do you do when the dream changes along the way? Do you still chase it, and do you feel like you are losing, or do you feel like it's still another stepping stone to success?
Thank you, Bongiwe. Good morning, everybody, and good morning to the people that are sitting on the virtual space. I think it's important to not to stop chasing your dream, because to live a purposeful life is everything that we are all about. So I would not say to people, stop chasing the dream. But I think what one needs to do, Zanele touched on something very important, says, I had a vision.
Yeah.
And I think to build on that, I would say, in my personal experience, I stepped back from the vision itself, but I actually needed to understand who Victoria is. And for me, that was the crux, and that unlocked what the vision would be and what the purpose of my life would end up being. Now, people, I would say to people listening, please do not be so hard fast and say, I have this dream, or I have this purpose. I believe that our lives are really to live an experience full of purpose that evolves over time. So I started out in nursing, okay? Yes, I did my junior degree, I did nursing, and nobody would have pegged me to end up here. But when you're saying, what decisions do I have to make that would inform whether I do this or I don't do that? I think if you understand who you are and you take time, and Bongiwe, the truth of the matter is, probably out of the people listening here, maybe 1% would say, I've actually dedicated my time to think about what I want in my life and who I am. Who I am, you can't answer today. You have to do a soul searching. And soul searching, as Zanele says, for her, it's prayer. I think for me, it was something else. And I think I talk about it in my book. It's finding the anchor, and the anchor could be anything. Higher purpose, higher being, higher consciousness. For me, it was just God. I needed to understand that I came from my parents. And because I came from my parents, I had people that loved me. I came from somewhere. But higher than that, I'm a spirit being. I'm more than this nice, lovely clothes that you see. I'm more than this beautiful face. I am a spirit being with a higher connection to God. And that's who I answer to. And I use that now, as Zanele mentioned, that you have to have a vision. But I use that to anchor me and say, now how do you lead me in experiencing this life, which I know everybody in this room, if you have never had a hardship, well done.
Yeah.
But most people globally have had some form or shape of hardship in their lives. The Bible tells us that it's guaranteed you will have one.
Yeah.
It's not a maybe or should or coulda, woulda. It says you will have one. And because of that, you have to be able to say, how do I navigate this life? And confront the hardships that I will come through with understanding that I have a North Star. As Zanele says, I have a vision. I know who I am. I'm Victoria, the child of the Most High God. And I do have a vision. And the vision must be higher than just, I want to earn more money. I want to have a job, a career. It must be bigger than you.
And Victoria, you mentioned something important, which I want us to touch on just a little later on with all of you. The importance of having someone to answer to, particularly when you have a vision. And just to remind our online community, you can get in touch with us, of course, hashtag Women in Conversation as well. We will be picking up your conversations, we'll be picking up your questions. Feel free to ask questions. We are keen to hear from you because this is a conversation for all of us. It's not just for us here. So I'm not the only one asking the questions in the room. So hashtag Women in Conversation. Of course, you can win yourself a prize. It's an added bonus, but I believe that the core of it is to help you cope. Now, Portia, in HR, in some of these companies, you hear employees say, our HR department just doesn't get it. They just don't train, our leaders enough to actually understand what we go through. There are people who leave home when they come to work. One, it's their last amount of money that they have to get to work. Two, some of them, sadly, would have been slapped around by their partners in their home before they left home. Now they have to put on cake makeup to cover that up. They are going to work having suffered huge losses. For example, I'm navigating life without my mother, who I buried just over a month ago. I'm at work, and you are an employee, you are saying, how does this space feels different? Because I've had this monumental loss, right? But at the same time, there's another person right next to you whose story you do not know. And a leader who's driving deadlines to the hardest, but not watching the mental well-being of these employees. So where are we lacking when it comes to leadership and looking at the employees beyond the numbers and beyond the deliverables that we would have given them?
Thanks for that question, Bongi. It's, I think, a real conundrum. Over the years, HR has really also transformed.
Yeah.
That's required to remain agile and really be responsive to the changing requirements of organizations. But I think any caring organization, for one, needs to have at least policies in place, that enable that there are at least structures where, whether it be through an employee wellness program, for example, putting such in place, but that's not where it ends. It's incumbent, and I think this is, something I take very personally, being an only woman, serving on the leadership board in my environment, is to look beyond that and to really, at every opportunity possible, take the opportunity to educate people about exactly what you're saying, being mindful about really living what lives in the policies as far as programs are concerned that look after the well-being of employees, is really just to drive such conversations at every opportunity possible. And I think really creating safe spaces, where people can feel that they're safe and free to raise, such concerns and experiences that they may be going through. So, as I said personally, I think one of the things that I've been driving very hard in my immediate environment is driving the conversation of an employee is not just a singular person. It's not just someone who's required to put out productivity and so forth. And a productive environment cannot exist if the employees are not well, and by well, I mean physically well, of course, that goes without saying, but even emotionally, mentally, and so forth. And so that is really one of the things that I'm very passionate about. And I think really it's about just bridging the gap in terms of having those conversations, but not just having them in Women's Month, for example, pardon me, or in October when we recognize, breast cancer awareness, for example, and various other themes that we look throughout the year. But having those conversations on a continuous basis and having them also in the right strategic environments.
Portia, before I move on from you, I want to tell you on something you've just mentioned. So, at times, there are these employees, Mbui mentions that there are sometimes these employees who don't know what they're going through. They don't recognize it. They don't realize it. They don't know that they're possibly depressed or they're going through, something that has impacted them so much. Now, HR in some of the cases, will try to intervene, as you say, it's dynamic, it's changing, and say to a leader, be empathetic.
Yeah.
Try to extend a hand of kindness to this person. But sometimes your manager will say, this one is simply testing the waters. This one is simply now doing too much. So how then do you begin to balance that? Because someone needs a day, possibly for self-care. For the fact that a woman has to beg so much in some cases to say, I've got menstruation cramps, and I would really like to be home. And just for now, just take a pill and sleep. Or I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And then you, as a leader, you say, there's deliverables here. You can't be a sissy.
Absolutely. But I think, it also comes down to driving the point home about, as much as I'm a leader in any organization, I'm first an employee myself, So it's incumbent on all of us to live out the policies that are put in place, in the organization, and they do exist. And so, as HR, to hold people to account to that, to make them realize that as much as the employee has a responsibility to adhere to certain policies, you do too, as a leader. But I think that the key for me, Bongi, is really just to consistently have those conversations to reinforce. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But it's important to drive those conversations on an ongoing basis and hold people accountable, I think, importantly.
And accountability is quite key. Mbuyi, how do I can't put my finger on it, right? But something is wrong. Someone is saying that this morning, that I'm either exhausted, I'm pinning it on fatigue, but I think also at the same time, there's just too much to go through. So how do I get to a point where Victoria says, pause for a second, find out who you are, where are you finding yourself? How do I do that practically in such a noisy world?
It is very noisy. We're living in a very noisy world. We start each day with yesterday's burdens assaulting us into a new day. We rarely have time to switch off and pay attention to ourselves. So it is very much important that we do take that time to switch off. I mean, you can do it even when you come back from work, where you've got just 1 hour of your time. Just be silent, be in your room, put rules with your family, with your children, to say, I need that 1 hour to just switch off, tune into my own feelings, listen to my body, because you know what? If you do not do that, it's going to be very expensive to correct it. Because if you keep on ignoring those signs of being fatigued, because fatigue is also a result of not sleeping well. Because you're constantly busy. You get home, you take care of your children. When you're supposed to sleep, you're not sleeping because you're counting tomorrow. I need to do this, I need to meet this target and all of that. And you don't actually sleep the 7 hours that you're supposed to sleep. You're supposed to be sleeping 7 hours minimum.
How do I switch off, though?
Okay, there's quite a number of things that you can do to switch off. You can do guided meditation exercises. You can get them from YouTube. You just type the guided meditation, because some people find it difficult to meditate. And some people, especially with our African culture, they tend to think meditation is some form of a religion. It's not. It's all about taking care of your mental health. They are guided ones. You might find, if you like, soft noise, rain, where you get a meditation of soft rain, thunder, for those who want to feel like, it's rainy and all of that and cozy. There's quite a number. Some of them are, where you get somebody speaking, trying to help you to switch off. Exercise is very important. very important physical exercises. You don't have to register with a gym, with Virgin Active, just walking around the block. We also talk of exercises that you can just go and do in the park where you walk just that 1 hour to switch off and pay attention to yourself.
Without your phone.
Without your phone, you switch off from everything. There's what we call mindfulness. And there's a number of mindfulness exercises. One you can do lying on your bed. Others you can do walking in the park where you switch off from everything but listen to the birds that are singing in that park. You know, just be mindful and pay attention to here and now and switch off from the noisy world.
So, Zanele, I'm being asked as a woman to switch off, right? And I'll try that. But then another layer comes in. And this layer is an imposter syndrome layer, where I'm sitting at this table, but I'm looking at all these women and men who are here, and I feel like, I'm the least. Yeah. And I don't measure up because maybe I don't have 15 years experience, I don't have 20 years, I don't have 3 degrees, I don't have this and that. And now I must sit with the mind that says, occupy.
Yep.
Where do I begin?
In fact, Bongi, that's a serious plague, particularly among us women. So for me, I was very confused. Some years back, I didn't know that this thing existed and it had a name. So here I am building a career. All I knew was to work hard, very hard. And fortunately, that paid, for me, because I could see the results, I could see the achievements, I could see the promotions. And I mean, my colleagues and everybody around me thought I had it all together. Meanwhile, there was this insecurity.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was work harder and harder and harder. And one of the things that I do, in fact, the 2 things that anchor me is prayer and journaling. So I journal just about anything. So I sit down with my journal, and I had to reframe and put perspective. So I noted my attributes, okay? I noted my achievements. And when I looked at it, I thought there's a disconnect between how I feel and the things that I see, which are facts. I then had to rewrite the story, basically writing to myself as if it's a third person, how wonderful I am, how successful and how hardworking and how, in all the beautiful things. And the moment I did that, the way I saw myself changed. And the imposter syndrome was a lie. So I had to remind myself every time I was sitting around the boardroom table, it's a lie because I know who I am.
Zanel, I'm not moving from that because someone wants to do that, but they are fearful because they're saying, I'm going to be seen to be prideful, to be telling myself that I'm the best. So where do I strike the balance?
Listen, why not? Why not? Be prideful. And the nice thing here, remember, you are not talking to Victoria. Even if you are talking to Victoria, it's okay. Be your own cheerleader. So, especially when you know, even if it's not there, even if you're still aspiring to be this best Zanele that you want to be, tell Victoria that I am the best. Because there must be some things that you are good at as a person. Just to add on that, I took it a step further where I created a confidence box for myself. So every time I had an achievement, I'll go back to the journal, just note that achievement. And there are times when you will feel unhinged and you need that confidence boost. So I go back to my journal and I remember that I am actually.
That is so important because it's just reminded me of taking stock. So you have a reference point.
Absolutely.
So when it gets tough, you can go and say, okay, but I did that.
I've done this, yeah.
So I can do it again.
Absolutely.
Victoria, you're nodding.
Yes, I am. It's a powerful recipe because I think we tend to be too hard on ourselves. And as women, we as earlier has been mentioned, that we drive everything hard. We are household, we are breadwinners, we're everything to everybody except ourselves. I think taking stock of what you've achieved is important to give you confidence to go forward. And that's where resilience comes in as well, is because you now know that I've been able to achieve what I thought was hard. For example, if I speak to the people maybe on virtual in the stores, someone might tell you that it was hard to do my matric, and they thought it was almost impossible to do matric because of all the environmental conditions that they were doing their matric under. Maybe there was no lights at home, there was this. All kinds of things could have made things impossible for them. But they pushed through and they passed. And they forget it when they get to college. That when they are faced with something again, which is another big milestone for them, which could be a hardship for them, they forget that at some point in my life, I actually overcame something much more bigger. Women are single mothers in most households in South Africa. And they have the resilience to carry on and continue to win one after the other. And it's all because they actually understand what Zanele just mentioned, that you know what, I can do this. And it must be a commitment inside, when you think about what is it that I want in my future and what my future should look like. You have to visualize what your future should look like. Then you can self-talk yourself into it.
Victoria, I want to stay with that and ask you this question then personally.
Okay.
There are times when we, and I'm sure more often than not, we feel guilty. I did not pay attention enough to my children. Today, I was not great at my job. I may have succeeded being a good wife, but all these other things failed. Today I didn't pay attention. I just found out my child at school needs this, and I find out through a teacher. That breaks me because I didn't see it on our drive to school. I was so preoccupied by that report I need to finish when I get to work. And then my husband at the same time is going through his own turmoil in the workplace. I didn't see it because I am so absorbed that I needed to make sure there's dinner on the table for him. And then at the same time, my helper is going through something, but I couldn't pick it up because all I want is for her to go, make sure we are supported in this home. So I feel guilty when I'm sitting alone in the bathroom and I'm saying, I failed here, I failed there, I failed. How do I get to a point where I do all of these and it's a balance?
Well, I think the word balance is got a little bit of a myth for me personally. I would say at that point, because it happens to all of us, where you feel there's too many things moving, and you're not getting them all right.
Yeah.
In that case, if you're sitting by yourself, like in your own space in the bathroom or wherever you're having a cup of tea, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I've let so and so down, and I've let myself down, and all that. I think that's the time then you need to have what I call an empathetic and compassionate for yourself. You need to know that you are only one human being.
Yeah.
And you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we get overwhelmed with things that we can't get to, it's because we never planned. We don't actually know what we want. So we kind of hustling everything and everybody along the way, and some things drop, some things win, some things, because there was no clear plan in the first place.
Yeah.
There was no clear vision where I'm going. You said earlier, Bongiwe, that how do you make a decision whether I go this way or go that way, and which one is best for me? The only time you know exactly that you're making a good decision, it's when your decision is aligned to your North Star. If it's not aligned to your North Star, then don't waste time and energy. We get into boardrooms and we sit in meetings, and there's big projects to be decided on, big monies to be spent. You have to have principles that you are working on in order to guide you to how to spend that money. Otherwise, you're going to go there, you don't know what you spend the money on. And this one wants to paint the ceiling, this one wants carpets. But in the end of the day, why did you come in to do this? It might have been just for this wall. But if you're not clear about those things as you come in, then for yourself, then you are not going to be able to figure out what it is that you want. I would encourage people to spend time, one, figuring out who they are, painting a picture, dream wild, dream crazy. Guys, you have to dream really, really crazy. I told you, I think I was working for Nedbank, where I went into, as an executive for Nedbank, I went into New York, And I've never seen anything as crazy as McDonald's in Times Square. It looked
Yeah.
like a Pick and Pay, okay, with so many cashiers. It looked like a Pick and Pay. I bought the cheeseburger. I wanted to taste and see what is this craziness about this burger, because there's so many people there. And I watched people move in and out, move in and out. You know what I wrote in my notes when I journaled that evening? I'm going to own one McDonald's one day.
Wow.
Yes. McDonald's was not even in South Africa. There was not even a McDonald's in South Africa.
And look at you today.
There was not even, so you have to figure out what it is that you want, and it has to be bigger than what you can do right now. Because I think most people look at it and say, I want to do a degree. I'm in corporate, and I want to advance myself, and I want to do something useful, and I want to do a degree. But then they get stuck on, oh my gosh, I've got rent, I've got bond, I've got car, I've got this, I've got family, I've got extended family, I've got children, I've got school fees, I've got this. Then they are lost. Then that little bit of a goal that would have advanced them to the North Star is kind of fizzled out. And then people get frustrated because they know there's something missing that they are supposed to be doing, but they are not doing.
So, Portia, at the back of that, how do I get there where I'm saying that, and you can give us even your personal account if you have, where Victoria says, I have a dream. I want to dream wild and big, but I'm already thinking my reality. I'm already saying, if I dream this wild, what happens to this? What happens to that? Okay, this, but before you know it, my dream is now diminishing. So how do I arrest, if I can use that word, these particular little foxes that are trying to spoil my dream from being as big as it should be?
I mean, we speak about the imposter syndrome, and I just want to pick on that and make an example. I mean, when I was asked to come and speak or be on the panel for this forum, I had all these crazy thoughts through my mind. Why me? And very quickly I had to arrest myself and be graceful to myself and ask myself, but why not me? And I think it's exactly that. You know, I truly support the notion of having your true north and knowing what it is you want to achieve and so forth. But it's very important to be very conscious of the conversations that happen in your head. Because very often those are the ones that limit us and you know, disenable us to achieve what we want to achieve. So it's very important to be very mindful, to be very cognitive of what you speak, how you speak to yourself, and as soon as you start veering off the rails, to quickly arrest that situation.
I want to add a layer. What happens if now I've done all of what you're saying, and I want to climb the corporate ladder, I want to get there and be successful, but I've got a manager who has got ambitions herself, and she wants to make sure there are stumbling blocks, as many as possible, so that I never get there, because she also secretly has ambitions. And for her helping me to get there, she's seeing it as me rising above her, and already insecurities kick in. How do I deal with that?
Look, I mean, the only way really of going up is to lift another person, really. So I think one thing that I can attest to throughout my career is having cheerleaders in strategic areas is very important. And why you want to do that is that you know, you want, in your absence in a boardroom, in a very important discussion, for your name to be mentioned in a positive light, you know, because you've achieved A, B, and C, and you've proven yourself, or you work hard, and so forth. So that is very important. Another thing I learned very early in my career is what I did not want to become as a leader. And how I learned this was, you know, really learning from the not so great attributes from leaders I've had previously, and I'm talking about female leaders, and also taking very good attributes from others, you know, and really just balancing that and carving out my own, you know, map in terms of how I want to become, or how I want to be as a leader in future. But going back to the question, how do you navigate around someone who maybe is a stumbling block in your own development? Is, I think, really partnering. I think strategic partnering with this person. So you've identified that there is an insecurity here. The worst thing that you can do is to feed that insecurity in a negative manner. That is. So I think it's really just partnering very strategically with that individual, making them realize that you're actually not competition, you're not a stumbling block in their own. And I think, there's enough of the pie for everybody to share in, So, yeah, I think in partnering and really demonstrating that I'm not the enemy in your own development. I think there's really collaboration that can happen here that could actually lead into two beautiful paths that may actually go two separate ways, is one of the ways that I would personally navigate such a territory.
And I'm going to give all of you a chance to pronounce on this one. I see Victoria has her hand up on this one. It's a burning one. And I'm going to ask you, Mbuyi, to add. And then, Victoria, Zanele, you give us also your nuggets on this one. It's an important one. How do we deal with this? Portia's giving us a strategic way, partner with them, make sure they don't feel like a threat. But how do I do that on a practical basis? And what do I add?
Okay. All right. Well, when it comes to, conversations between you and your manager, it's very important to actually have, very constructive conversation. So the relationship between you and the manager, or between a manager and the employees, it's very much important, because the same manager depends on the employees on the ground to actually drive forward, issues of production and all of that. So the relationship is very important. The relationship between the employer and the employee is very much important, because then what does it do? It promotes loyalty. It builds up morale, because the employees then feel cared for. They feel listened to. So it's important that as managers, again, the training for managers, it's very important in the workplace that managers are always equipped with the techniques and the skills of how to actually deal with the employees in the work. Because remember, as you have asked the question, the employees that you are leading as a manager, they all come with different needs, different expectations, different agendas. Now, if they then express those or you identify those, do you then get threatened? How do you deal with those? Because you've got a group of employees that come with all these different needs and expectations from you as a manager. That's why some managers, when they find out about these expectations, the visions and, the plans that the employees working under them might have, they then feel threatened.
And Victoria, as I come to you, I ask this question because at some point in my career, right, I was an administrator. And I knew that journalism is something I wanted to get into, and broadcasting in particular. And I had a conversation with the manager at the time who was already doing it, and I was an administrator in an editorial space, a newsroom space. And they said, okay, part of the performance appraisals, you need to tell us where do you see yourself in 5 years' time. And I said, I see myself as a journalist and whatever. He laughed so hard.
Wow, sure.
He laughed so hard, and he said, I cannot reconcile the you that wears heels every day and dresses up for work with makeup to being the one that is covering a protest. You are doing this. It doesn't make sense. And he laughed. You know what I did? I got out of that conversation. I went into the bathroom. I cried like I've never cried in my life before. Because at that moment, my dream was shattered. The one person I was leaning to pick me up laughed so hard. And as critical as you talk about cheerleaders, I at least had 2 friends who were able to say, no, 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 no. We're going to wipe the tears, put on makeup, and that dream is coming to pass. And eventually, the very first night that person saw me on television, they sent a message and said, ha, you actually did it.
Wow.
But it's not everybody's story that gets to end like that.
Yeah.
Because others get to be pressed down and they don't have these cheerleaders. And you are sharing this vision with your manager because you are saying, this is a servant who can lift me up. But they don't. So what do you do?
So I think in your case, your story, the manager who laughed at you was actually communicating to you that I don't see you,
Yeah.
and you will never be enough for this role. And he was just projecting his own insecurities. I think it's important, to add on to what Portia and Mbui has already said, that the organization in which you work in must create an environment that's conducive for people to be themselves, to be authentic. But for me, this starts at recruitment. Portia probably will attest to this one, that at recruitment, the company, we come in for interviews. My personal experience is that I went for an executive position. And in the interview, I was asked all the questions for the interview. At the end, they asked me, any questions from your side? And I asked, well, the values of this business I've seen because they were on the internet. So I did my homework before I came in. And I asked the question, do they live these values? Are the values something that, there's integrity there, there's all the nice words that are put in there. Do you guys live this stuff? Or is it just on the poster? And the HR senior group manager looked at me and thought, geez, nobody's ever asked us that question. And then they said, is there any other question you need? I said, well, management, the leadership of this company, does it allow people to express themselves and their skills? Because you are if I'm successful in this position, you are hiring me for my potential skill that I can add value into this business. Will that be allowed? I think most of the time we get into organizations and the company itself, at a executive leadership position, they've carved the strategy. They know the numbers. They know how to advance the company and what needs to be done from a strategic direction. It kind of fails when it fizzles down towards the middle management level. And I think that's where organizations need to empower people. I thank God we are in McDonald's.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have this if the company was not aligned to what I'm saying. But I think most of the issues are at a store level, at a lower level, where someone's own insecurities are projected to someone else. But it's our role as leaders to break those molds and say to people, everybody here has got a value add. Everyone here is worthy. That's why you are a member of this business. 15,000 people in this business. We need every single person to be active and add value. There is not a single person that's useless. The minute they understand that, then all the different hierarchies fall into place. Then they allow people to express themselves. Then you have what we call a healthy competition.
Zanele, you're a store owner. We just heard this. That it needs to filter down right through to the very, right? And how do you ensure in your business, that it does? So that whatever you are mirroring there at the top is mirrored there at that place, which I don't like to call the bottom. I always call the servants.
Very good question. So as Victoria has said, we constantly have conversations with managers because remember, it is in my interest as a business owner to have as many managers out of the servants as possible. And whilst you communicate that to your immediate managers, sometimes the insecurities come in. that what if she shines and she gets there before I do? So what I do, which I think most of us do as operators, is every 4 months you have a meeting with everyone. So it just doesn't end with your managers. You get to meet with the servants as well. You encourage them and you show them that your manager today was in your position, so you can be as well. So it helps. And we also have open communication so that at any given point, the person who's at the 7th level knows that they can access me anytime should they need to, because you have instances where if there's a bright star coming, you know, the people around will then try to suppress them. But if they've got your ear and you are constantly looking, they know that I can do this because they've got the support.
And, you know, I use the word servant, and sometimes this word has negative connotations. All of us are servants.
Yeah.
Okay, exactly.
From Greg to everybody, we are
Absolutely.
servants because we understand that in our line of work, wherever we are, ours is to lift somebody up.
Yes.
And only a servant can understand that particular part of leadership, because when you understand that yours is to serve, you want to serve people as best as you possibly can. Which segues me now into this part of the discussion, to serve you enough to take your questions and to try and, you know, address some of the issues that you will face. I'm told that our online audience is so mesmerized by what we are saying right now, they don't have questions yet. And I know the questions are coming, but I'm told they are just in awe of what is happening here. And I don't know if any of you in the room have questions, and you can raise your hand. And we can be able to, we have a mic that maybe we can get to someone who's got a question here on the audience, because it's such an important part of the conversation. And I see a hand there at the back. And it's such an important conversation because, you know, when you think about carving a path for somebody, I always say, when they don't surpass you, know that you are still left with a bit more work to do.
Yeah.
Because the person you're mentoring, they need to surpass you.
Yes.
And you must be so comfortable enough in your own skin to understand that particular aspect of leadership. And I don't know if we do have a mic there to our audience member.
Thank you so much, ladies, for this session. It is truly inspirational, especially for us young ladies who are following in your footsteps in corporate. I've made a lot of notes. I make a lot of notes.
That's very good.
But there's one pressing question, and I just wanted to link it back to the term imbogodo. I always tell people that's my least favorite term, because we are always expected to take it. And we keep on getting things added onto our cups that some are not really for us. But because you are an imbogodo, you take it from work, you take it from home, you take it everywhere you go, and you need to smile because you're the leader. You can't really be all vulnerable. And I think one of the challenges we face as imbogodos is that you're perceived as strong, therefore you have to take it. You have to take it, and it keeps coming from every angle because you're strong. And some of us naturally are built strong. I always tell people my nature, I'm strong, and I don't know if it's only because I grew up with men, but you become naturally strong because of what life serves you. And I think Sis Victoria also mentioned that sometimes, you know, your past experiences, and we've got different ones, make you a stronger person. You've got an easier link to survival. Corporate becomes particularly challenging when you're a strong character, because you get people who are not even in the right space trying to challenge that because they feel you're strong, you can take it, and you're taking it home. I always say, I always check what fills my cup, and if I'm going home, I need to empty whatever it is that I filled my cup with at McDonald's, so that I am there to be there for my daughter and my family. And when I come to work, if anything made me upset, I need to empty my cup because I need to lead people. Now, my question is coming to all four of you ladies, that how do we start creating an environment that allows people to be psychologically safe and vulnerable without feeling that they're being weak, without feeling like they're letting people down, or they are going to be perceived that they will not be going to the next level because that day they were like, you know what, guys, I just need to take time to take care of myself.
All right.
Now, as leaders, we're doing it for our teams, but really there's a lot of people coming behind you who don't unfortunately have this opportunity. How do we continue nurturing this so that it's not a bi-yearly conversation? You, be it a man or woman, how do you become vulnerable
Yeah.
and be psychologically safe where you work to say, at work, at home, it was hard. So go easy on me today at work. I think
And
that's my
not be
biggest question.
seen as if you can't
You
climb
are weak or you are failing
because of that.
and be labeled that this one can't go because of that event, they're not strong enough.
Thank you very much for that question. I think we can all briefly just answer it.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
First? Okay. Firstly, we need to understand that no one is perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is ever perfect. And therefore, we need to understand that we cannot always push ourselves, even if we understand that now I cannot do it. So you need to be able to think about yourself first. You need to be able to have open communications to say, here I put boundaries. Be able to put boundaries. Self-care is important. Don't feel bad when you have to take care of yourself. Self-care is not self-centered. It's not being self-centered. It's not being selfish. Because now, as you have mentioned earlier on, how do you then pour from an empty cup if you keep on pouring? Pouring. This one is pulling you this side, you're giving. You never put boundaries in place. It's important to have boundaries, but in a very constructive way. In the working environment, we need not to confuse assertiveness with aggression. It's very important because sometimes as we try to put the boundaries in place, we become aggressive. So it's important that you are able to put your point across to say, you know what, I cannot take this anymore. That's why now, when it comes to mental health in the workplace, we talk of so many policies that we can put in place, workload policies. You know, working environment need to talk to such policies, mental health policies, open door policies. You know, we use that word so loosely, open door policy. But do we make our managers understand what is open door policies? Secondly, the training of managers and supervisors on how to identify at-risk employees, troubled employees, impaired work performance is very much important. Because remember, they know how to actually drive people on a direction of being productive. However, the mental health side, you know, emotional and all of that, they were never trained on that. So they will not know how to even start these conversations or listen to them.
And especially because, Portia, this is so critical, what Mbui is mentioning, that as a manager, I mean, I was at executive management, for example, in a newsroom at some point, and you get told, stop showing emotion. You need to stop getting involved in the issues of your team members. You know, stop it, because you need to tell them they need to deliver. So at the same time, you're stifling her because she can't be vulnerable. So what do we do?
So I think it also comes with realizing the responsibility. So, if to whom, the saying goes, to whom much is given, much is required as well, So, and I think it's also about creating the balance. If I give you leeway as a line manager, which is crucial, it should not be perceived as a door to not toe the line and so forth. So I think that's also, because as HR, you need to also strike that balance between recognizing when maybe liberties are being taken and when people really require the necessary support and so forth. But it's important indeed to create an environment where people can show up as their authentic selves. And I think as leaders, that's one thing that we need to demonstrate as well. So I mean, I make it a point in my team to balance the soft with the hard. When it's time for us to work, we work and we work hard. but when we play, we play equally,
Yeah.
you know, as hard. But I just want to also, you know, just touch on the issue of Imbogoto. I had a conversation just recently with some of my colleagues, female colleagues, and you know, one thing I was just saying is that I'm really looking forward to us as Mbogotos really moving into our soft life era, you know, because I think if we're mapping a way forward for the generation that's behind us, but I think it's also important to look back to the generations prior to us. And one thing, when we talk about balance and so forth, which I also share the notion of, there is no such thing as balance. If you chase balance, you are set to be disappointed. And you know, just looking back at our previous generations, I mean, I am someone who, like many people perhaps, were raised by a pack of strong women. You know, my mother, my grandmother, but they didn't do it alone. They did it with the auntie next door, the grandmother, you know, and so forth. And really, it's about also recognizing that you need the community. You need to also create your own community to assist you in chasing this balance that we know does not exist. Because really, at the end of the day, it's also about just cycles in your life. You know, in one cycle in your life, you'll find yourself in a position where you may be just really living your soft life era, and really that's what it is. But sometimes you're chasing careers, you're chasing deadlines and so forth. And so it's important to compartmentalize those things and to recognize that in this era of my life, I'm not going to be able to be everything to everyone. These are the critical top 3 things that I need to chase, and just be content with that. The fact that you're not going to be a great bestie to your friend, unfortunately needs to park, because you are going to end up being very resentful rather. You look at your husband and he's living his best life because he's not worried about the 100 things that you have to worry about. So it's important to also just, you know, be kind to yourself.
If you're online, I'm sure you're seeing me here on my phone. I'm checking your comments and all of that, and I've got names of people that have won vouchers, and some people are going to get books. I'm not going to tell you where yet, but let's continue. We will wrap up shortly, so you do still have a little bit of time. Any other question in the audience? Because I'm just monitoring our time as well. Okay, I'll start. Where's the mic so that I know where to start? Right. If we can move to the back, and then another mic here at the front, and then at the back as well. We'll take all the 3 questions, and I'll get the panelists to answer them as quickly as we possibly can. You know how things are. When we're having fun, time flies.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think for me, one of the strategies or the lessons that I would like to learn or get from you is dealing with the N-word, the narcissist, right? So I had my own issues where recognizing that I'm dealing with a narcissist, right, of a manager. And the first thing that I did was to blame myself. I thought I'm attracting, because there was a pattern and a path. So it took me a long time to unravel that, to get to the point of being empowered and also knowing how to manage and navigate myself. But I think it's such a paralyzing environment if you're working in that and seeing you powerful ladies there. I'm sure, or I'm assuming that there would have been in a time where you were in that space or paralysis, and it would be interesting for me to see how you worked at that and where you are around that.
Thank you. I'll take the next question, and then I will ask our panelists to respond.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Thank you for having such a beautiful conversation as ladies. I'm a bit emotional, but I'll try to balance things out. I'm
It's
unemployed.
a safe space.
It is, indeed. So I'm unemployed and currently dealing with the back and forth of not knowing how to balance whether I'm coming or going, and having days where I feel like I'm not going to get to where I want to get to. So for me, my question is, how do we try to deal with that? Like, as much as, you know, there's that workspace, but being out of it, is there maybe, ladies, a way that you can maybe advise to say, how do I handle being at home and having those dreams and having all the things that you want to achieve, but not knowing whether I'm coming or going.
All right. The next question in the front.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for today. I think my question is a follow-through to the lady just sitting behind me. And I think Portia actually did kind of like touch on it, on chasing the balance matter. How to switch off the noise around us. I know, we all know that animals, they hibernate. And it feels like with us ladies, we always pushing, going, the next thing. We just, we never get time to like take a pause. My question is, as women, we multitask most of the time. How do you navigate or balance owing yourself a me time to recharge and switch off without seeming that you are neglecting those you care for around you? Or being selfish, or being seen that you're being selfish. Thank you.
I love that question. I love all your questions. Thank you so much. So what I'm going to do with the time that we have left, I'm going to make them pointed so that I give each of you a chance to answer. Victoria, I'm going to ask you to take the question about being unemployed and still seeing the vision. Zanele, I'm going to ask you to take this question of how to strike this balance. And Portia and Mbui, I need you to deal with that narcissism aspect of it so that we deal with it once and for all. So Victoria, you may start.
Hi, Sisi. Thank you for a great question, and I can feel your pain from where I'm sitting. I think one of the things that you can do, the difficulty of where you are now is feeling stuck. And it's a very demoralizing place to be in. However, I want you to know that you are very special. God has created you with a sound mind, and that means you have the capacity to evolve. And you have to see this time frame in your life as something that's not coincidental. Maybe it's something that is meant to be, and try and see the positive out of it. It's harder than I'm telling you to do. What I'm telling you is much harder than I'm saying it. So I'm not taking these words very lightly because I've been in your place before. However, what I think you need to do is when you are home, because you are home, use the time to figure out who you are. Use the time to think about your dreams, but not think about the dreams that you picked up from the next person. Find your essence. What is it that makes you feel good about yourself? When I had to do this exercise, I actually ended up seeing something that I never saw about myself, is that I actually like working with people. And part of me likes teaching, And I never thought of being a teacher. I've never wanted to become a teacher. I thought teacher, because I had teachers in my family, I didn't like what they were paid. So it didn't attract me. But what I got to learn is that I loved working with people, but I didn't know what it meant at the time. I ended up in nursing. In that nursing role, I actually got reinforced that I love working with people. I love serving others. And in that role, I gave it my all, and I ended up here. The money came by itself. Yes. It never was my main target. So I think sometimes, the universe actually talks to you and says, you are going too fast. You are in a treadmill and you're going too fast. Maybe slow down. It's not nice from a reality point of view because you know what? I've got bills to pay. I don't have time to sit at home and twiddle my thumbs. Maybe this is the time for you to figure out exactly who you are so you can chase that North Star with 100% commitment and passion. And then you'll see the stars opening up for you.
That's very nice. And I hope you do take heed that, as you say, it's hibernation. Yep. Hibernation doesn't mean done. I love the fact that you use that word. There's another question, Zanele, which ties into the one I want you to take. Bells, who's watching online, says, finding a balance between being a mother, a wife, having a full-time job, trying to run a side hustle for extra income, handling household chores, adding school into the equation, and it becomes so overwhelming because there aren't enough hours in a day. How can I give myself self-care without feeling guilty? And I suppose it ties in there as well.
So I think as women, we have a lot more of synchronized roles. I mean, wives, mothers, leaders, etc. And not only that, so we also are nurturers, by nature. We love taking care of everybody around us but us. And so for me, there's two things that I'd like us to address in this. The first part of it is the issue of the balance. I think, as all the ladies have said, I don't think there's anything that's called balance in this equation. So it's a matter of individuals defining what that balance is for them. For instance, the lady online talks about her having to take care of the children, husband, everything. Personally, I had to make a decision when I knew that I wanted to have a career. At the same time, I wanted to be a wife and a mother to my children. So I had to decide, I had to sit down and say, I cannot be perfect in all these things. And I was beginning to resent women who were always at the school, taking care of the kids. Come back home, you hear when you're having coffee, oh, when I was preparing dinner, and I didn't have time to prepare dinner. Am I a bad mother? I had to sit down and say, okay, so I will take care of the most important responsibility at home, and what I can't do, I will outsource.
There we go.
Okay? Secondly, I know that my kids wanted me to be at every event, but I just had to have a conversation with them to say, Mommy works. I will attend some events and I won't attend some, which liberated all of us. And then for me, I found it worked. The other thing that I got to learn, but I'm still struggling, and it's work in progress, is when I put together my week program, for instance. So we do it. I'm sure we all do it as women. It's all about work. So all the to-dos, because I personally have a month program, and then I break it down into weeks, and then I break it down into to-dos for the day. And so it used to just be work, to a point that, when my son comes into the room and I'm still, doing some work, I get irritated because he's not part of the program. Yet, so what I'm beginning to learn is to say, okay, I'll block this time for me. And it just doesn't matter whether the store is burning, Greg.
Because you're not the fire brigade.
I'm not the fire brigade. My managers can call the boss. So I'm beginning to learn to put boundaries, to say there should be time for me and that I don't feel guilty, time for my family. And when it's my time, and when my son walks into that room and I'm just having my meditation, get out of my room, and I shouldn't feel guilty about it. So we need to be kind to ourselves as far as that is concerned.
All right, I've got about a minute and a half, and there's two questions. So, Portia, online, Megan, my manager also told me that you can't be nice to the staff. You are above them. And that killed my spirit. I got into HR because I'm a people's person, and the fact that I was so open with them and didn't treat them as I was above them helped the morale in the office.
Yeah.
The morale, I suppose you wanted to say. Now, please tell me, how can I have this conversation with my manager? Because I hate acting or having to act that I'm above another staff member. And actually making them feel like they're not human. They really drive making a point and being so nasty to them.
Remember, we all act out from our own lens in terms of how we see life. So the manager that is insisting on a particular style, that's his frame of mind. There's a saying that goes, hurt people hurt people.
Hurt others.
And I've personally worked for someone, I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to saying a narcissist, but someone who was very difficult. It requires consistent, open conversations, very direct. You have to be authentic. You have to make the person realize that this is your preference, this is my makeup, my preference, and to stay true to who you are. But, I want to maybe just link it to the other question as well. Reflecting back, there's so many things I learned from the individual, very good things. And I'm very grateful for some of the lessons that I've also learned. So not everything is bad, you know, in terms of having to deal with that kind of character. So take the good, take what you can take as lessons, bank those because one day you will need them. And even the bad lessons, let that develop and teach you how not to be in future. But I think constantly putting your foot down and not compromising on that because otherwise you'll be very miserable. having to be someone else.
Final one then, very briefly. How do we deal with narcissism? And we just heard a little bit of it.
Yes, I was about to say, she's mentioned most of the stuff that I wanted to mention. However, open communication is always the key. And being authentic. And how do you then start those conversations? It's important to stick to facts and not hearsays. Don't talk about other people, talk about yourself. You know, what has happened. Point to the incidents. Managers, that's why I keep on saying, managers need to be trained consistently on how to identify troubled employees, because that's a troubled employee.
Yeah.
And that manager cannot even identify that. And if it continues, then it affects productivity. And it creates a unhealthy working environment for everybody, because that will not just stick with them. It might then, affect other employees. So it's very much important that we have these open conversations. And again, in the workplace, we always have policies that talk to mediation. Firstly, you go and talk to the person directly. If then you don't get joy, then you get somebody to then mediate, somebody above. And you don't do that behind the person. You tell the person right there, I've tried this. It seems as if we cannot, settle this between the two of us. Then maybe I will need to involve the third person. So it's important to be honest around those issues. And just one thing to close. It is very much important that we all understand the importance of holistic wellness in the working environment. There are different dimensions of wellness that we have to make sure as leaders and employees on the ground that we take care of. These dimensions are mental, environment. The environment that we operate in must be conducive for employees to be productive. The career path of the employees we need to take care of. Finance, we need to take off, the financial issues of the employees. We need to take care of the cultural issues that come with the employees in the workplace. Spiritual, social, there's quite a number of them. I won't finish them because the reason I'm mentioning this, if one of the dimension is not okay, if the working environment is not okay, then the whole individual is affected and all other dimensions are affected.
So, that was just amazing. And to demonstrate that we live what we are telling you, ne? You can see our nails, right? 3 red, 2 similar colors. Do you see? We spend time. We in sync. Self-care. Self-care. Ne? Self-care. It's nice. So I promised you at the beginning to our online audience that I've got vouchers. And before I wrap up my time here on the stage, I'd like to mention the 100 Rand McDonald's voucher winners. Charlotte Gumete in Gauteng, Shane Mdunga, Gauteng, Feroza Park, KZN, Leberfontein, Western Cape, Matabo Tsidi, Western Cape, Uratile Mohale, Free State, Vuyo Shasha, Northern Cape, Zandile Masisa, Gauteng, Makura Mukundi, Eastern Cape, Sherwin Pillay, Limpopo, Kabelo Siboni, Western Cape, Bongani Kumalo, Gauteng, Zita, Slodrikos, Limpopo, Bonolo Motapo, Gauteng, Noktula Ndaba, Gauteng, Mbasa, Mgidi, Western Cape, Portia Batonsela, Mpumalanga, Andiswa Dlomo, KZN, Tabang Tsibula, Gauteng. So congratulations to you all. So, The next time you see me, understand I come bearing gifts, ne? So, I'm not leaving you behind, those of you who are here with us in the audience. Now, please, those of you who've asked questions, please quickly come onto the stage. Wow. Very, very quickly. Very quickly. Very quickly. Us jump in. Victoria has been so gracious to give you her book called Resilience Do-Over, How to Rediscover Yourself After a Hardship.
Wow.
She will sign it for you. There we go. You see,
I'll do it later.
it pays to ask a question.
Yeah.
Tsepiso, can I volunteer the one to someone who may not have asked?
Okay.
Can I?
They're paying.
Hey, pressure manje, yabona ne. Putwam in the middle. Yes. Thank you. Please receive the book from us with love. Thank you for being our cheerleader and being in our space. Thank you for being an ally. Appreciate you. So, I'm full. My cup is so full, I'm overflowing. I cannot wait to share the nuggets I've just received with everyone around me. Please, let's put our hands together for Victoria Moyo, Zanele Mvelase, Mbuyika Hlanchangase, and Portia Sibego. I hope you were able to glean from what they've had to say. There's practical things you can do on a daily basis, just to take a step forward each day. I'm not the one that's going to thank them. We do have our dynamite who's coming to thank them. Maureen, of course. You know, when she enters the room, you feel her. Yeah. Maureen, please come.
Like the energy.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, first of all, to all our online community. They've just been amazing. They've been so engaging. And I must tell you, we had, up to now, we had more than 800 people online.
Wow.
So, well done, well done, well done. A huge thank you to each and every person that's sitting inside here. Do you know what? I know some of you have got meetings that you had to cancel because some of the people had to leave because they had to run to their meetings. But thank you for taking time to water yourself so that you can be empowered to thrive and to evolve, to become more powerful and to impact your people that you work with, your communities that you work with, and just be an ambassador of McDonald's South Africa. Well done. We've got some people that are here that are from outside of McDonald's. Thank you for taking time and for canceling everything and join us as the McDonald's Women Leadership Network with our women, our women in conversation, especially the men that have left their meetings to come and join us and understand the Mbokotos which we are. To the organizing team, you've just been amazing. This has been the most powerful conversation. And now, let me turn like this. And I want to say to Mbuyi, wow, we want more of you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Such a deep knowledge of this kind of subject. We really need more of you because the mental health issue, the well-being issue is an ongoing conversation. We need to look after ourselves so that we can add value in our jobs, to the people that we work with, and to this country as a whole. Portia teaching us about the importance of being a representative of Ubuntu in our workspaces, because you say the way we treat our people. You know the South African thing, Iti? Umntu ngumntu ngabantu. I am because you are. And that is something that we used to use. We must use that daily, Portia, to make people feel good and to help people to thrive and be the best they can. So thank you for what you have come and share with us today. To our two beautiful owner-operators, very special ones, Zanele. Wow, I knew you were an owner-operator, but I didn't know you've got so much power in you to impact us so positively. And thank you for what you've shared with us and really impacted us so positively. Vic, you know, she's a naughty one, guys, but I'll tell you again. You know, she's not just an owner-operator now, she's now an author. Author Victoria, well done. Thank you very much. And by the way, part of her foreword in her book is written by our CEO, Greg Solomon. That should tell you how much Greg supports the empowerment of women and leaders and people as a whole. He wants people to be the best they can, and I really am proud of you for writing that book, Sisi. And we are going to give some of those books away. Oh, we have already,
We have.
And we are getting some of it for our teams. So thank you very much to our panel. Oh, guys, please join me in thanking this beautiful woman. Lena Impokoto. Just give her a standing ovation, please.
Thank you.
Sisi, ay mani, bongiwe. Every time she is the moderator of Women in Conversation, the conversation just becomes so beautiful, so impactful, so powerful. So thank you, Sisi. We appreciate your time. We know that SABC is waiting, but you made time for McDonald's South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Greg Solomon, where are you? Where are you? Come, you're hiding. Mr. Greg Solomon, our CEO and the sponsor of the Women's Leadership Network, thank you very much. I must tell you guys, are we done with online now? Are we done? We're not yet? No, let's just get them off to say thank you very much, Greg. You've been so good to us since, you know, Women's Leadership Network was launched as a chapter in South Africa. You have really been supportive and always been there. We're not taking lightly what you're doing for this network. So thank you. I must tell you guys, every time I go to our other network leaders, they always want to know what we do as South Africa. And thank you for the support. So guys, have a great day. All the best. We just want to hand over all the gifts. I know that I'm going to ask some of the ladies to come and hand over the gifts to our panelists and also to Bongiwe. Come, Bridget and Mbali, come and do the honor. Thank you, everyone. We're now going to have lunch, I think, eh? We're going to take, we can take a group photo and then we can have lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Oh, thank you.
Njengamanje lapha nje uyengibona ngakhona la esibhedlela because babanika ne-accommodation bayakwazi ukuthi umntwana noma bagula babeduze nabo, which is the best.
Please don't leave just yet.
Hi, Matanja.
Please. Something very important I need us to do. Please, you need to be in the middle.
Care is given